Alrighty, today is August 25th, 2025. Beautiful Monday here in DC. A lot of things to talk about. First off, um, Cracker Barrel has decided to redesign their logo. What are your thoughts on this, Mr. Chase? And how are we feeling about the new logo?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's sad that you kicked the cracker out of the logo. I mean, it's so disrespectful
Right.
to the cracker and the barrel. Um, and yeah, I think, the new logo is so woke because it's apparently I saw this, I think it was a clip on Fox, that it is DEI and woke because it is basically just completely inclusive because there's nobody in it. I wasn't really following the logic of how uh um a yellow symbol like this is woke.
Supporting this.
I just remember going to Cracker Barrel after church on Sundays. That's what I remember, going through the little gift shop and then going to sit at my table. Yeah, I just think it's kind of funny to anything you don't like or anything that feels like there's some undertones of what they're doing, which, you know, is always crazy that they see all these different, like, this is a direct assault on their heritage and their history. And I'm like, it's a corporation. It's like that's what they do.
Yeah.
But yeah, your thoughts on that?
The
And
Cracker Barrel thing, it's just, I feel like right now more than anything, Republicans need to be outraged by something in order to get the focus off of what's happening in the economy with the revisions of the job report, what's happening with inflation, with CPI now above 3%. I think that, and then the obvious elephant in the room, which is the Epstein files and how those still haven't been released, and how the fact that, you know, Mike Johnson literally had to send Congress to recess in order to make sure that there wasn't any like uh, momentum going into the release of the Epstein files. So, I mean, I think that right now it's just it's the same thing with the whole Sydney Sweeney jeans commercial. I think that they create this outrage because as we saw in the 2024 election, when it comes to like these social political situation issues, like the the fight on woke culture, that's the only thing that they truly have. It's not like what
yeah,
makes our lives easier. It's not what makes our lives better. It's not the economy. It's nothing like that. It's more so, is there going to be trans people in our schools? Is there going to be LGBTQ representation? Are black, is slavery about, I mean, right now literally Donald Trump is talking about removing slavery, or how bad slavery was, from our Smithsonian. I literally had to go to the Smithsonian this past weekend in order to make sure that I saw and was it. Well, not only that, but I mean, he's talking about also defunding the Black History Museum too, the Black History and African American Culture History Museum. Like, it's baffling to me. So like this whole culture war thing is the only thing that Republicans seem to have. And speaking of, actually, I won't get into that right now because obviously we definitely want to talk about the militarization. But when I was in DC, I'll speak about that a little bit more. Or maybe we could just segue. Do you have anything else to say about the Cracker Barrel thing? Because we can actually just.
I mean, a little bit because I think it's a combination of some people are just reacting whether they like the logo or not. I'm not saying, like, I don't really care one way or the other what you feel about the logo. My opinions of a food chain's logo is about like the lowest thing on the radar of what I care about. And I think the fact that this is being touted as it's like some grand display of like wokeness or any of these different like arguments that people are making is just kind of ridiculous. Um, I can understand people getting tired of corporations kind of trying to do these rebrands and things like that. But I also think that it's because it's a female CEO who has touted some of the LGBTQ initiatives and things like that, and just trying to create Cracker Barrel to be a more welcoming spot. I say that because Cracker Barrel was, I think there was a whole entire court case about them firing gay workers, and then some, issues with racism and stuff, also accusations. So it's probably just HR cleaning up with some of that. But the fact that you turn it into a this is what they're trying to tell me, they're trying to take it away from me, is just kind of crazy. And I think it also goes to show you how childish in some ways I think these reactions are. Like most, and they make it into a political issue, but most Democrats and Republicans and people in general could care less about the logos of what a fast food restaurant is. And I think it just goes to show you how they're really just seeking to divide you for the dumbest reasons, the dumbest reasons.
It's so minimal. It is such a small thing, and it has no impact on anybody ever. Like
Oh,
a company rebranding has no material impact on what your day to day looks like. It's baffling to me that this is what they're concerned with,
yeah.
rather than, like I said, something like the tariffs that have been implemented that are driving up costs, or the fact that people can't find jobs right now, that from age 22 to 25 is having the hardest time in the history of, when they've been able to start collecting this data, that they're having issues trying to find jobs right now. Like that right there should be the headline issue, but the fact that it's not is like actually insane to me. Um, yeah, but anyways, so I kind of touched on this before. I went to the National Mall because I was going to the Smithsonian this past weekend. And while I was there, the entire military was out on the National Mall, a mall that has absolutely no crime that I have seen, that I've witnessed in the past couple of months that I've been living here in DC, that like you never hear anything about. Like that's one of the safest areas. That's where the Capitol is. That's where all the monuments are. That's where the biggest tourist attractions. It was wild to see because I went with my girlfriend and her sister, and when we were walking, there was like three people from the army in front of us. And then like while we were walking, three more came up behind us. And like it was like there was over when I'm not even over exaggerating right now. There was over 100 people within the military that were on the National Mall. And they were just walking around. They were just monitoring everything. It was actually insane to see because like not only it felt like just a waste of money because they were out there in the middle of the day doing absolutely nothing, providing absolutely nothing for us. And it was just like they were walking around. And like now Donald Trump is talking about expanding that
Hmm.
to Chicago next. Like he said that was on his list. And then New York after that. Like I
Mhm.
mean, they're literally quite literally trying to militarize in the middle of our streets, like the military or the police force. They're trying to militarize the police force in the middle of our streets. I mean, what are your thoughts on this? Because like I obviously personally just witnessed slash experienced it, but like hearing that they're trying to expand, like what are your initial thoughts?
Um, I think it's so much for show. And then, there's legitimate concerns about crime everywhere, right?
Of course.
But the
Anything.
way in which people react about crime is ridiculous. You're not going to solve crime, but just stationing a bunch of army people in the National Mall where it's not even actually the most crime-filled areas of DC. And it'd be one thing if they sent in the military with the backing of police to help them or to work with local officials and also not sweeping door to door talking to people and actually doing this equally, right? If we're going to actually talk about crime, why don't we talk about the cities with the actual some of the worst issues of crime? If you go to Memphis, Tennessee, it's pretty bad issues with crime, but it's a red state. He's only targeting blue cities because it's not for the actual issue of solving crime. It's to show and prove a point, I think, in some ways, one, but it's also to um, I mean, like you were saying, just militarize the police. But also, I think it looks like you're doing something.
Yeah.
So much of what this administration does is not resolve a problem, but show and act like they're resolving a problem. I mean, half of the problems they're recreating, but you have a good image, you have strength and power, and it shows that you're, willing to deal with things. And uh, I'm more concerned about the way in which a lot of people are very dismissive of it. They think that because they're scared of crime and they're worried about crime, that that's what we should go to. And I begin to question, when does it stop? He has a lot of leeway with DC because of the way in which DC isn't really represented and is kind of just basically up to the whims of Congress. But um, I think we're looking at militarizing and becoming borderline a police state for the sake of resolving crime. This isn't a left-right issue. This is a moral issue. And when you actually start looking at it and digging a little deeper, a lot of Republicans would actually begin to see it differently if you kind of thought about it the way like Tom Tillis was talking about it, right? It's like, where does it stop? How long does it keep going? Do you do this for 30 months? And that also brings another issue with it, not even just from the police state and like how long it lasts side, but also what happens when they leave? Does crime go back up? What have you actually done to resolve crime for the long haul, right? Not just for this little period where the military's there, which, again, we can debate whether there's any even if they're even really having an effect in the areas that they are. But also, it's concerning to really home rule. Um, and also, not just the way in which he's kind of taking over the policing and things like that, but also threatening the mayor, saying that you might not be mayor anymore.
Yeah.
The president of the United States does not have the right to take out elected officials and remove them. He doesn't. And I think that's another issue is we're giving him way too much power. Um, and he's going to take it, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
I
so
agree. It's kind of scary because like when I actually wasn't able to tell you the story. So last week, while I was going and getting my haircut, like right outside of my barber, um, there was this Hispanic guy riding on a scooter, I guess delivering food. He had like a big pouch on the back. So like, and a lot of food delivery services like are usually like Hispanic people,
hmm,
at least around here in the DC area. And he was riding on the sidewalk in DC, and all of a sudden, a pickup truck, an unmarked car, pulls up, and like two masked men with military gear jump out and grab him and detain him. They detained him for over 30 minutes for absolutely, it looked like absolutely nothing. So they detained him for 30 minutes, I guess, trying to verify whether or not he was a legal immigrant. Once the 30 minutes went by, I have to assume that they were able to verify that he was a legal immigrant because they ended up letting him go after the 30 minutes was up. And it was kind of scary to see because like it was so clearly profiling, and these were people who were in an unmarked car and were wearing masks and like military gear on. I was not military gear, but like those vests that are I guess bulletproof vests. And so it was terrifying to see that happen, and people started to kind of congregate around it, including myself. Like I witnessed it happen. Then I went into my went into my barber because I was like, okay, if this starts to get out of hand, I don't want to be like all that close. So I went into my barber and I was watching out the window like while everything was happening. And my barber and I were talking about that. And he's like, we agreed. They had to have been profiling him because like he was literally just riding down the road and they pull over, grab, and they were on the opposite side. So they were going this way, he was going this way, and then they pulled over to the side, grabbed him, and then detained him, and then started blocking up all the traffic around there too. So like there was only one lane of traffic everybody could go through. So like everybody kind of had to start maneuvering around this pickup truck that was like in the middle of the road while they had detained him. And man, we were talking about also like that guy's life was like his life must have been flashing before his eyes. Like he left his home that day, like I'm just trying to make an honest living, trying to work, trying to deliver food, make some money for my family. And like he probably expected to come home and there was after he got detained, there was a large chance that they were going to detain him and he wasn't going to be able to return home. Um, and that was just scary to me because like we're talking about the militarization of the police, but like also like what ICE did there. I There's a lot of things that I've witnessed living in DC where it almost feels like it's it's a war zone. Like we're grabbing people off the middle of the street or literally off the sidewalk and detaining them based off of how they look. And then we also have officers that are, walking around and or not officers, military people, like army people walking around the National Mall, which has effectively 0% crime happening. it, what is DC coming to? And like, when does that start to expand to other states too and other blue states? Because it sounds like, obviously it's been happening in Los Angeles with the detention centers and everything that's been happening, and obviously Florida with Alligator Alcatraz. But like now he's also talking about deploying the military into those areas too. Like we're in a different world right now, and it's like it's very scary to witness what actually is happening because like I'm seeing this in real time in DC, and it's just a matter of time before it really starts to expand into other states too. The militarization of the police, like that is going to start expanding into sounds like Chicago's next, and then from my understanding New York and Los Angeles is already like trying to push back on that because they did it in Los Angeles too.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's my little anecdote for the day. But yeah, it was actually insane, like witnessing that entire thing unfold. And I was literally texting Krupa about it the entire sorry, my girlfriend. I was texting my girlfriend about it the entire time, like should I do something? Should I like get up and be like, hey, should I film this? But they ultimately I think if had they put him in a truck because they literally like once they detained him, they were just they were like literally out on the street just waiting, talking to him, I guess waiting for another car to come in and like give them information on whether or not he was going to be detained. Like if they put him into another car, I probably would have like gotten up and started filming or doing something. But like witnessing that was actually it was actually crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I have no doubt that they're doing that and they're profiling that, but it also is disturbing because it begins to show you who they think is American and who isn't.
Hmm. Yeah.
And, in a country of immigrants, to me, not, I live in a very Hispanic neighborhood. Like, are you just going to target everybody? Like, if somebody has a thicker accent than another, like, do you target them? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And they can act like they don't target. Kristi Noem was so offended that we're not racially profiling. We're not doing those things. You go to a Home Depot and then you target everybody who speaks Spanish,
Mhm.
and then you tell me that you're not targeting people. And your assumption is, well, they're all probably illegal anyways. Every single time we've done, and unfortunately, the mass raids isn't necessarily new in American history. I mean, it's new for our generation, and I mean, since I think probably the 50s or something, the way in which they're doing it now. But every single time we've deported a bunch of people, we tend to end up deporting Americans too.
Yeah.
And we already have in this instance. They like to make excuses where, like, oh, the mother wasn't documented or things like that. And it's like, I don't care. I don't care. They're an American. And you sitting there going and targeting every single person out there, what are the racists going to do? Every single Hispanic person is a target. You speak Spanish, you look possibly foreign in any way, you get looked at a different way.
And also, Donald Trump literally tried to overturn birthright citizenship. Like,
Yeah.
we can't even gloss over that part.
Yeah. But, I think, this is just going to continue and it's going to get worse. I mean, when you give ICE so much, or yeah, when you give ICE so much money that it's like basically a militarized force, they're going to use it like that. Um, and, I think a lot of Americans are far more accepting of that than some of the other things that Donald Trump does, which is, even more concerning, I think. Um, but yeah, I guess kind of going into the next kind of topic, thoughts on like Gavin Newsome and his whole trolling, I guess, or the press office?
I have never seen a better strategy deployed at the most perfect time because he coupled it with the whole redistricting of maps. Like when he announced that he was redistricting maps, he did it in the, or at least the press office, did it in the Donald Trump tone, saying it's the most beautiful maps that we've ever seen, done by the most handsomest governor that and America's governor. I just I love everything that Gavin Newsom is doing right now because he's exposing the hypocrisy, right? Republicans, Fox News, everyone is saying like, for somebody that plans to be president or is going to be like running for president, like this isn't very presidential of you, or like, you don't speak to the president of the United States that way. And it's just like this is, I mean, how are you saying, and they're saying this with straight faces too. They are saying this as if Donald Trump hasn't called Joe Biden Sleepy Joe for the past 4 or 5 years. He's saying this as if he hasn't been calling Hillary Clinton Crooked Hillary for the past 10 years. He's saying this as if he hasn't called Ron DeSantis Ron DeSanctimonious slash Meatball Ron for the past, 2 or 3 years. He's saying this as if he hasn't called Nikki Haley, Nikki Birdbrain Haley. I mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, and not only that, he's calling people. He called AOC low IQ. He
Yeah.
attacks Joe Biden when after he got like cancer, he's like stage 9, which there isn't even a stage 9 at that point. Like the cancer's already beaten you, right? So, I mean, I they are saying this with straight faces and like I don't know if people are eating up the hypocrisy or not, like they understand the hypocrisy, because like I can't imagine Republican voters are stupid enough to look at that and say like, man, these people are right, like somebody that is aspiring to be the next president of the United States shouldn't be talking like this.
No, I don't think the average, I mean, they probably think it's a little childish, maybe, but I think what's interesting is you think it's childish when he does it, but he's just copying and pasting basically. Like people act like like Gavin Newsom sitting there insulting Trump. He's not really. He's sitting there taking a Trump tweet and literally just filling in the blank. It's like an AI prompt, and you just fill it in with your verbiage and phrasing, and it was working.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it. And it's not delivering for Republicans because it's not for you. It's for us. It's
Exactly.
for us because you clearly don't get it. You
Right.
clearly don't understand and you think it's childish and immature. But your president, the man who you think is great and miraculous and wonderful, talks like that all the time. That
Oh,
is who he is. That's not who Gavin Newsom is. That's true. That's who your president is. And the man who sits there and says those things, and you think it's great when he says it. You think it's authentic.
yeah.
What's authentic is Donald Trump is crazy off his rocker because a mentally well person could not craft what he crafts. It is the skills of mental illness. And I say that with no insults to anybody, but clearly something is wrong in that man's brain. Maybe it's, maybe it's age, maybe the power's gotten to him,
Yeah.
maybe he's just mad that people are never going to like him eventually. Like,
Eventually, you mean right now?
no, but I mean, we have to talk about like, Republicans act like he's like American Jesus, basically, or something. Like he's resurrected and he's coming to save us and he's doing all these things for America and everything's great and it's wonderful. And like, I find that part to be so annoying because the American people don't buy that. They didn't buy it with Biden. They're not going to buy it in 4 years of Trump.
Yeah.
If you are not able to actually solve their issues, America is not a very ideological country. We're very issues and what can I get out of it country, which most people are really, if you, I mean, you really think about it. And I think, it'd be kind of crazy to go from Trump to Gavin Newsom because I think Gavin Newsom's probably, not necessarily the best person. And that's not an insult to him. I'm just saying, like, I don't always like Gavin Newsom. I don't think he's always done the best on different things. And there's a lot of problems with California to say the least. But, you know, he's definitely teeing himself up to have some favorability in the primary coming up for
Right.
2020.
It's not even just the tweets, right? It's
Yeah,
also
the
that
fundraising.
yeah, he's redistricting, which,
Yeah,
Republicans seem to be super upset about. And
yeah.
before we hopped on the call, you and I actually had a conversation about what's it called, Nina Turner, and like what her responses are. And obviously, I want to get to that, but I'll explain a little bit more about the redistricting thing. Like not Donald Trump, yeah, Donald Trump called Greg Abbott and said, "Hey, I need more seats that are non-competitive." And Greg Abbott did exactly that. And then Gavin Newsom said, like, Greg Abbott rolled over for him, and then Fox News reached out asking for a comment saying, like, was this because of his disability? And he said no, but how woke of you. Like, I love that. I loved that response from him.
And the Republicans, they deliver every single time for Newsom. They don't get it. Their responses are just as good. They're sitting there critiquing him for saying, You're talking about a governor in a wheelchair. Do you think Donald Trump cares about anybody he insults?"
Yeah,
Like Donald Trump insults everybody. He talks about their race. He talks about like I mean, he made fun of the disabled reporter.
yeah,
And it's
literally went like
yeah,
this.
exactly. Like years ago, he insults people all the time. And then when anybody insults him, they're like, "You're cruel." Or Republicans in general, right? Like, you can be going. They can talk about people from third world countries and say they're disgusting, and you know, go all about how Biden's an idiot and he was basically dead and all these different things. And then anybody dares insult, Greg Abbott or anybody like that, and they're like, "You're just cruel. You're just mean." Like when you allow Donald Trump to act like that, you don't get to tell anybody anything.
I mean, not only
I
that,
think that's what we're beginning to see. It, you know, it's not just Newsom now that's doing it. Other people are going to start picking it up because Donald Trump hits too. He attacks Newsom and says it. Give me attention.
yeah,
Like it's an attention economy now, so I think it's so smart because I want Donald Trump to tweet about me
yeah,
because that means you're thinking about me. That means I'm in your mind. And I wonder why. Because Donald Trump, if you're listening, is very, very, very open about what's in his mind. It's terrifying, but
he's
he's very open
on
about
the
it.
sleeves.
He's right there with it. And, I think one, I mean that in a way where other people think he's saying things or he's like positioning himself. Donald Trump is not positioning himself. It's flying off the cuff, like just stream of thought type tweets. Basically kind of like the modern version of like a Kanye or Jaden tweets when they used to tweet like crazy things and it'd be like, what are you even talking about? It's basically like that, but he's the president.
Yeah,
But, I think kind of going back and tying it up, it's like everyone wants people to talk about them in a positive light. But it's very clear that you don't have to be talked about in a positive light to really win anything
yeah,
or to get attention. And you don't have to play nice. To tie it back to the redistricting, like um,
oh, yeah,
there's absolutely no reason why Democrats should hold themselves to a different standard.
yeah,
If Republicans aren't going to sit there, like I think that there's not going to be Republicans aren't going to listen until they realize that there's going to be pain for them too. So you have to make it you have to do that. You can't just give up and say, we're not going to do anything.
right.
Um,
Yeah.
which some people advocate.
Yeah, unfortunately, people like, Nina Turner, which she is, I guess, going to be like a guest speaker for the top Democrats, which, I obviously have my reservations about because, like, I think we had discussed this before, a lot of her politics I do agree with, right? But like her idea of fighting back is literally laying down and rolling over for Donald Trump and the Republicans and saying, "Oh, we need to have the moral high ground." Look at where the moral high ground has gotten us, right? We got a loss in 2016. We got a loss in 2024. Like right now, Donald Trump completing his second term as president of the United States. We try to hold the moral high ground. We lost the House, we lost the Senate, we lost the presidency. I mean, where has that gotten us trying to lead this whole moral ground? Because, like, at the end of the day, Donald Trump and the Republicans have obtained the attention economy. They have tried, like, people aren't going based off of policy, they're going based off of feeling. Because if they were going off policy, Joe Biden outperformed every G7 country, every G20 country. Like, the reality is, in terms of inflation and unemployment, the reality is, if you're talking about economics, like, Joe Biden was a relatively good president of the United States. Obviously, he had his falters, but, like, he passed the bipartisan infrastructure bill that we saw the benefits for in Georgia. He passed the Inflation Reduction Act. He passed the CHIPS Act, which now Donald Trump is literally using funds from that CHIPS Act to favor, himself. And, like, it's just like what I mean, what are we doing, right? Like, it's Donald Trump is literally benefiting off of a lot of Joe Biden's policies and a lot of what Joe Biden had accomplished. And, like I said, look at where that got him. They ended up asking him to step down. Kamala Harris ran. She couldn't win against Donald Trump. Like, we just if we continue the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And right now, we're trying to have that whole quote unquote moral high ground, and look at where that has gotten us. We don't have. I mean, what is the point of the moral high ground if we don't have any control, and things like, the military is being deployed into blue states, things like ICE are grabbing and detaining, you know, random people that just look like illegal immigrants, or not. They don't even look like illegal immigrants. They just look like Hispanic people, right? Like, they're automatically associating, like, oh, they have to be illegal. Like, look at where that has gotten. I mean, he literally blamed the plane crash in February on DEI before he even knew anything about anybody on board, about who the pilots were. He said it was DEI. So, I don't know. I think Nina Turner's uh I guess framework is just the worst thing on planet Earth, in my opinion, my humble opinion. But I mean, what are your thoughts on her framework and, I guess, everything that I just said?
I mean, I think we can kind of go into it a little bit deeper in another video, I think, because I think it's a good conversation to have. But I do think she's right in that there is going to have to be some sort of movement, politics, and protest to actually deliver a lot of these things. Um, but I kind of liked what he's a Senate candidate for Michigan. Um, Abdul El Sayed is running to represent Michigan, and he said, when they go low, we get in the mud and we choke them out. And I like that. Not to say that I'm actually going to start choking out Republicans, but
Do
I,
that.
well, maybe, I don't know. But the point is that I think we need that spirit of willingness to
Yeah.
fight for what we believe in. And, it's like if people are willing to storm the Capitol for January 6th, we should be willing to fight for just, decent health care and minimum wages and a better life for people. Like, we should fight with that same vigor and same commitment. And I think when you're not doing that, you're not winning. Just plain and simple.
I agree. We'll definitely have to have a conversation about that at another time, but I appreciate you as always, Chase. It's good talking to you. I look forward to seeing you next week when I'm sure something else will have happened. And yeah, I hope you have a good day.